One safety in the country. What was it about Alabama?
LSU Tigers, number one. Go Tigers.
In the next 4 years, I'm going to Denver University.
Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, 256-576-4977. Now, here's D Squared.
Welcome, everyone, to the Thursday edition of the Blitz Sports Radio. This is the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared. We're going to have our weekly visit with Chris Lee of Southeastern14.com as it's crunch time in college baseball in the Southeastern Conference. Midweek games are over. Really school's out for a lot of these colleges. These guys have had finals. They can concentrate on baseball and ending their season strong. Of course, impressing pro scouts because, the Major League Draft will be in June at the end of the month, into July. So we know that the Major League Draft's coming up. So a lot of these guys get a chance to, if you can go on long postseason runs, you can certainly impress Major League scouts as they're going to be scattered throughout these conference tournaments. Also, the regionals, super regionals, and Omaha. So this is the best time of the year if you're a college baseball fan. And Chris Lee does a great job. Yesterday, once again, he did some bracketology in baseball. He laid out the entire field, which is a very arduous thing to do. But he does a great job of crunching the numbers. We'll let him speak on what he thinks right now with the SEC going into these last two weekends. And there's a lot at stake for so many, certainly with Alabama and Auburn, who are both right now hot and playing well and trying to move up the shark tank known as the SEC. So we're going to talk to Chris about that, no question about it. Now, the University of Alabama, first of all, shout out to the softball program and Coach Patrick Murphy. They get it done. It was late. Now, this game was supposed to be played at 4 due to weather, lightning delays, rain. A couple of extra inning games because the first two games went into extra innings. Certainly, the SEC tournament was, behind, let's just say. Alabama, though, Montana Fouts a complete game. Now she has over 300 strikeouts on the season. She gets the win 7-2 over a hot Missouri team. Missouri, I think, come in winning four of their last 5, including taking a series against Arkansas with 2 last at-bat victories after dropping game 1. But Alabama gets it done. Ashley Pronge with 2 long home runs to the center field. She's swinging the bat. Bailey Dowling doing the job as well. And so Alabama gets the win. Kinley Cahalan, they win 7-2. So they will face the host, Arkansas Lady Razorbacks, tonight. Tentatively set for 7 because, as you know, with extra inning games running behind, weather, you never know. But again, shout out to Alabama for getting it done. You heard that game here on ESPN 97.7 The Zone, and you'll hear tonight's as well. And then and don't forget too, on this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, depending on the softball schedule, you will hear the 3 games out at Bluebell Park. It will be the University of Alabama as they will take on the LSU Tigers. LSU Tigers, I knew I'd do that. I've been had the LSU on the brain because of football. The Texas A&M Aggies and Jim Schlossnagle. Texas A&M playing better baseball now, coming off of a 2 out of 3 home series win against Kevin O'Sullivan's Florida Gators. Both these teams 11-13. Now, more tenuous for A&M because they're 28-20. They need to continue to stack wins. Probably going to get into a regional right now. I think they'd be a 3 seed, but they're still trying to climb up. Alabama under the radar, 33-16, an RPI in the top 15. They've got still a small chance to host if they could finish strong, I think. So, and Jason Jackson with his audition now that he's taken over for Brad Bohannon. We all know what happened there with him being dismissed. So it's a golden opportunity for him, no question about it. But the University of Alabama, they are going to be taking on Texas A&M out at Bluebell Park, and it's a venue they've had some success recently. Of course, that led to Rob Childress being let go. I believe Alabama swept them a couple years ago over there. Rob Childress, after 16 years, was let go as Aggie baseball coach. They went and hired Schlossnagle, very high-profile move. He had done a great job building that program over at TCU, and reaching Omaha and nearly winning a national title. Now he's going to try to do the same thing. He got to Omaha in year one with A&M last year and is going to try to get hot at the end and make another run, no question about that. But speaking of Alabama, we're going to give you a little bit of a preview of that series over Texas A&M as we're going to hear from interim head coach, I should say, Jason Jackson, previewing this series a little bit.
Our guys are, playing well right now. We had a great weekend. We really pitched well, I thought, especially our starters. Those guys all went deep in the game, and when you do that, it kind of protects your bullpen when you get some length out of your starters. So, we got some guys that need to pitch. We got some guys that haven't been out there in a little bit that are hungry to get on the mound. So, I know they'll be fired up, and we got some guys that are, really, doing well offensively. So, just keep on doing our thing.
You guys are 11-1 in midweeks this season. What has worked for you guys this season compared to last season?
Well, I know we've talked about it being kind of a point of emphasis, of coming out on those midweek games and, really trying to kind of play our game, right, and not letting ourselves have lulls. You go to these big environments on the SEC weekends, and sometimes it's tough to bring that same intensity on a Tuesday, but I think this group has done a great job of that all year. And, this Tuesday will be a great environment down there. We hadn't been there in a few years, but I know the last few times we've been down there, it's always a great crowd. It's a really neat place to play, and so I think that'll help, for sure. I think the energy and the intensity will be good, and Troy's got a great ball club. They've got a really good team. They're a really good offensive club. I think they got over 90 home runs as a team and over 60 stolen bases as a team. So, we're going to have our work cut out for us, and I think it's going to be a great atmosphere, but I know our guys will bring it.
And that was Jason Jackson as he was talking about their road trip to Troy, which they did win 7-2. And so, we're going to end up, seeing how they can do in Texas A&M, and we're going to hear also previewing this Texas A&M series. We're going to hear from Drew Williams.
So I think things we take away from this weekend going into College Station is that, everybody in our league's really good, right? And, we have a really good team, and, Vanderbilt's got a really good team, Texas A&M's got a really good team, and what you have to do every single weekend is go out and play well, and I think if we continue to get really quality starts like that out of our 3 weekend starters, then I think we're going to be in a lot of these ball games, and, pitching, defense, timely hitting, and, I think those are things that we got to continue to do.
We've had some really close series losses to some really good teams this year and just really couldn't find a way to get over that hump, and this weekend we finally did it, and I think that's the team that we truly are.
Yeah, I think just being in a lot of these close games throughout the year has given us, we've got some comfort playing in those close games, right? Like we've had a ton of close games this year, and some of them we haven't come out on the good side of, and some of them we have, but I think our guys have gotten comfortable playing in those close games.
I think we led the league last year in one-run losses. So it's like we know what it means to be in tight games and come up disappointed, but we haven't quite been able to break that seal of winning those real tight games. And being able to do that this weekend should be able to get us on the roll.
I think the challenge for Texas A&M is just, going there. It's a tough environment to play on the road. They have a great fan base, and, our guys, usually get excited about those type of opportunities. But, they got a really good ball club, just like everybody else in our league. And, it'll be a rowdy and loud environment. And, hopefully that, helps our guys kind of, hopefully our guys respond to that like they have before.
It's good. And anytime you can go play in an electric environment, it's gonna build character and show you who your team really is whenever you're put in those tough situations.
There's another SEC opponent. They're really talented, and we just have to bring it to be able to beat them.
The best team and the worst team, it's all the exact same in the SEC. Everybody's really good.
Well, I want to see them play, what I want to see from our team this week is, I want to see them go out and continue to play well and play together, play our baseball, just kind of play our style, play our game. And I think if we do that, we're going to be in good shape.
You see, before we gamble on the kids.
And that was Jason Jackson, Caden Rose, former Bob Jones alum, by the way, and Drew Williamson, who are going to be big parts of that weekend in College Station. Really appreciate Alabama for giving us access to some of that audio and it's to be expected in the aftermath of what has happened with Brad Bohannon. We haven't really heard much from the baseball program from the standpoint of the head coach. Jason Jackson has had a couple of press conferences, but no real details. But we've heard from him a little bit. But it's good to hear from him in the way he and his staff have responded, and from the players who I think have shown a ton of resiliency in what they're doing. And, in a very tough situation when you're talking about a deal where your head coach that recruited you is gone under the circumstances that's happened. There could have been some hangdog and there could have been some bitterness, but I think the team has had a renewed energy and focus. They certainly have done a really nice job, and you got to give them a lot of credit for how they've reacted and played. No question about it. And, they won their biggest series, I think, of this coaching staff's tenure. When you talk about they hadn't beaten Vanderbilt during their time there in a series and hadn't won a series from the Commodores since 2012 during the days of Mitch Gaspard. So, again, it's just one of those things where it had been, 11 years since Alabama had won a series from Tim Corbin's outstanding program. So that was a big step. And then beating Troy, getting off to the slow start. I think they were trailing 2-0 in the fourth inning. They come back. They were able to get things done. And win 7-2. The pitching settled in. Offensively, Drew Williamson with another home run, the senior from Bruton, Alabama, who's having a big, a super senior season, so to speak, as he came back this year. So certainly he's leading the way. Great to see Caden Rose back, by the way. He missed some time with a tight hamstring. Everyone who has been around this community knows Caden Rose. His father, Kevin Rose, longtime football coach at Sheffield and Bob Jones High School, now at Whitesburg Christian Academy as offensive coordinator, following a brief stint at Lincoln County in Tennessee. But he's had a really good coaching career. Caden was a heck of a competitor when he and Dylan Ray committed. We had them on our sister station, ESPN 97.7 The Zone's Talking Ball. It was an honor to have those two young people in the studio as they made their decision. Certainly, it was been a beneficial one to both of them. Dylan is a redshirt freshman, was a little older. He's already been a fourth-round pick and is in the minor leagues, beginning his journey hopefully to the bigs with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And Caden is a good player for the University of Alabama. We'll see if he's back next year. I believe he is draft eligible this year, but certainly looks to have a future in professional baseball as well. So both those young men having success at the University of Alabama, and we really appreciate them. And Jared Smith, by the way. Shout out to him and his coaching staff, developing those two young people at Bob Jones. He also has a senior this year, Sam Mitchell, who's had a heck of a year as a pitcher and hitter and who has signed with Alabama. We'll see what happens with this coaching change and who ends up being the head coach. Hopefully Mitchell will follow through with that commitment, but of course he has his own future to decide and what he really wants to do going forward. But again, I know Greg Byrne has been in communication with a lot of the signees for Alabama baseball, and Alabama's going to have some attrition. They've got an older squad this year. They're going to need an infusion of young talent. It'll be interesting to see whether it's Jason Jackson, if he is able to go on a run this year and make a run at the job, or if they bring in a head coach from another school, what their approach is to building the roster. Because even in baseball, with NIL and the transfer portal, it has really changed a lot of things and how things are built. So certainly we will be monitoring that and seeing what happens going forward, no doubt. But again, this is going to be a big opportunity this weekend for Alabama to stack some wins, get another road series win, which is very hard to do. I mean, I don't think Tennessee, I think they're 0-4 in Tony Vitello's program, has lately been playing better baseball. They've been playing really well at home, and they're back at home this weekend. But on the road, it's been kind of a struggle because, again, they didn't play well at Georgia last weekend. And the Dogs are trying to make, under Scott Strickland, they're trying to make a run late in this season to get back to the postseason, no doubt about it. And they are looking to get back to the postseason, because early Georgia struggled, no doubt about it. So we will see. But the Georgia baseball team, they're probably, right now, they'd be one of probably the last four in. But we will see what happens going forward with the Dogs. Is that series win certainly was huge over the Tennessee Volunteers at home in Athens. And Georgia, after a slow start in conference play, they've been playing much, much better. And they are making a run and look like they are going to have a shot to get into a regional, which 2 weeks ago you might not have thought that. But that's how quickly things can change. I mean, Alabama could play themselves back on the bubble if they don't have a good last 2 weekends. I mean, LSU's LSU, Vanderbilt's Vanderbilt. They certainly are in strong shape. Arkansas, Coach Van Horn has done a remarkable job, especially with all their injuries to the lineup and to the pitching staff and being able to navigate things. You got to give him a ton of credit, no doubt about it, with the job he's done with that program and what he's been able to accomplish. So really looking forward to talking some baseball with Chris Lee, who does an outstanding job. And like we said, if you check out Southeastern14.com's YouTube channel, certainly you'll see overall, what an outstanding job that he does. And as we said, he ended up predicting the field, which is extremely difficult to do. And he crunched the numbers well enough, and this is he did a really good job of kind of setting those things out there, and giving you and making the case for 11 SEC teams to be in the field. Now, we were talking to Blake Lovell on our sister station. Do I think ultimately that'll happen? Probably not. I think it'll probably be more like 9 maybe. But again, if the SEC could get 11, it would certainly be extremely beneficial to the league and show the strength of the conference. Sometimes I think the committee goes out of their way to try to balance it and not put 11 SEC teams in, or 10, when they're good enough, okay? They beat each other up. I think that should be, talked about going forward, how, difficult the SEC is, no doubt about it. But I guess we're going to see how that's going forward. But, it's going to be interesting to see how many teams get into the SEC, no question about it. And like we said, the Tennessee Vols, have been playing better. And they, like we said, they swept Mississippi State, and they were really impressive in their sweep of Vanderbilt. But they just haven't been really good, certainly on the road. And so, but they definitely going into the this weekend, it's going to be a big weekend of SEC baseball. And with Tennessee being back home, they're 12-12 are the Vols. They've still got a good shot to at least finish 15-15. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens going forward with that. And as we said, the Florida Gators are looking to bounce back too. Florida had a tough series loss at Bluebell Park against Texas A&M, and that's where Alabama is headed, as we've said. And you'll hear all 3 of those games on our sister station on ESPN 97.7 The Zone. Georgia finished their midweek yesterday. Did Georgia? They won 9-2 over South Carolina upstate. So I believe they're done now with that, and so we'll see going forward. What's going to happen with the SEC schedule. There's only one game series scheduled to start tonight in Oxford, and it's desperation time for the Auburn Tigers, for the Ole Miss Rebels and the red-hot Auburn Tigers. Let me correct myself. Apologies there. Butch Thompson's team is red-hot. 2 out of 3 at South Carolina 2 weeks ago, almost a sweep. Then they take 2 out of 3 against LSU, the number 1 team in the country. Now they're headed to Ole Miss. Ole Miss, they have struggled all year in defense of their national championship. Right now, Ole Miss and State, both the Mississippi schools with rich traditions, would be out of the SEC tournament. Missouri would be in, but there's still 2 weeks of baseball to be played. So Auburn, they're red hot. They're looking to finish strong. They got Ole Miss on the road and then host Missouri. They could go a long way to knocking Missouri out. And then when you're looking at Alabama's at Texas A&M, and then they host Ole Miss. They could go a long way toward knocking the Rebels out. And then we'll see what happens without a doubt with Mississippi State, because Mississippi State has got their last 2 weeks of it, and they have to go to LSU to state, and that is brutal as they have to go to one of the toughest environments in all of college baseball to play, and it'll be an LSU team that's a little angry because they let that series get away against Auburn. It's their first series loss of the year, and then at the end of the season, Mississippi State, their last series will be at home at Duty Noble. They'll play Texas A&M with a chance still potentially to get in. If you had to ask me, which two of those teams would likely get in the SEC tournament and who will be eliminated, I think at least one of the Mississippi schools will get in. I don't think they'll both miss, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mississippi State, if they can find a way to beat A&M a game or two at Duty Noble Field, that might get them into Hoover in the end, because Mizzou having to play at Auburn, that's going to be extremely tough, no doubt about that. And then when you look at Ole Miss, they've got Auburn. Even though it's at home, they've been struggling at Swayze Field this year for whatever reason. And then they have to go to Tuscaloosa to the Rebels. So, and Alabama's playing well. I really like where this Alabama team is. So, again, we could see both the Mississippi schools miss the Hoover, but I don't think so. I still think it's going to be Missouri and one of the two. And if you had to ask me my pick, it would be Missouri and Ole Miss. We'll see if that takes place. And that would be tough for Mike Bianca, who finally broke through last year, has had so many good teams, such a Hall of Fame career there. Establishing Ole Miss is a great job in the SEC baseball-wise. Coming out of nowhere to be the last team in the tournament and win the national title, to miss the NCAA tournament, and Hoover, of course, would certainly sting after what they were able to accomplish a year ago. But, heck, this has been 2 straight off years for Mississippi State since they finally brought their first national championship home in their storied history of baseball, as they have had 2 stints under the great Ron Polk. And baseball means so much to Mississippi State. They were really probably the first team in the modern era, first university to commit to baseball and become really, really good. They certainly had teams like the 85 team with Thunder and Lightning, Will Clark and Rafael Palmeiro. They had all kind of chances and Bobby Thigpen and those guys, Jeff Brantley, to win a national championship, but had a key injury or two. A bounce of the ball didn't go their way, and they didn't win it. But they finally got it done a couple years ago. But then they missed the postseason last year and in danger of doing it 2 years in a row. Chris Lemonis has already had to make coaching changes. We talked about his pitching coach, Coach Foxhall, being dismissed. So it's been tumultuous, no doubt about that. But I'll tell you what, we're going to go on a break. But before we do, please go see our sponsors at Alumni Hall. Over at the Bridge Street Town Center. They've moved to their new location down from the Apple store. They are now temporarily next to Belk. And in August, they will be moving to their new digs, their biggest yet, and it will be next to the Buckle. They will add Tennessee to their repertoire, Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee. And they're hiring for the summer. So go see Andy and those nice folks there. But if you need your Alabama, your Auburn graduation presents, Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthday, please go for all your Alabama and your Auburn needs to Alumni Hall and alumnihall.com. If you have that Arkansas fan in your family, Tennessee right now until they open this new spot, they've got a lot of teams on alumnihall.com. Very reasonable shipping, and also they have the Hall Rewards program where for every $150 you get 10 free dollars, and that lasts for as long as you want. You can stack them on top of each other and use them all at once or use them one at a time. It's just it's great, to go to Alumni Hall. Great folks over there, and we appreciate their sponsorship. And don't forget, later today, the Bandyman, Billy Lowry, Captain Cool, John Abraham, they're going to bring you the afternoon blitz from 2 to 4, and there's going to be some great action. And then don't forget to download our app at the Google Store, the Apple Store, the Blitz Sports Radio app, and if you haven't, the 97.7 The Zone app, so you can listen to Alabama athletics, softball tonight, and then baseball on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as well in College Station. Hopefully softball can make a deep run, and certainly Coach Murphy, they're the defending SEC tournament champions. Hopefully they can win it 2 years in a row, but I think they're at least, if they can get a win tonight over the host, I think it would sew up potentially another hosting opportunity at the Rhodes House for Alabama softball as well. But I'll tell you what, we're going to talk to Chris Lee, Southeastern14.com, BandySports.com when we come back. Stay with us here on this Thursday edition of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio.
Normally, when you call a roofing company, all you hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Since 1965, the folks at Fleming have been focused on what you need, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement, commercial or residential. And when it comes to storm damage, you want Fleming on your side. They know all the ins and outs of insurance claims and will guide you through the entire process. Log on FlemingHSV.com and book your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
This is Wes Neighbors with Philip with Eagle Insulation, and we have an announcement to make.
Yes, Wes, we are now Eagle Masonry and Insulation. Still a place to call for your insulation needs, but now we offer masonry services.
What kind of masonry projects can you handle?
Wes, no job is too big, no job is too small. We can do renovations, new construction, outdoor fireplaces, fire pits, brick landscape borders.
Well, when you came out to my house, you did both the insulation and masonry at the same time. You guys did rock for me, you did brick for me, and you insulated my house. That's usually done at the same time that you're building a house.
Absolutely. It really capitalizes on two services you need at the same time, and you can get one company to handle both of those.
Philip with Eagle Insulation will come out, do your installation. He'll do your masonry. They do a great job. They guarantee your work. Check out more online at insulatedwitheagle.com and schedule your free examination today. 256-755-1556.
Thanks, Wes.
With us today, Dr. Tracy Lowry of Best Vein Care of Huntsville.
When we evaluate a patient and they indeed have significant venous disease, most third-party payers, private insurance, Medicare, require us to treat every patient conservatively at least 90 days. Conservative treatment includes increasing ambulation, elevation of the legs, and the wearing of compression stockings. It's very common for folks to come see us in March or April wanting to have their veins fixed before they go into swimsuits starting in June. When we see someone in March or April, they're going to require at least 90 days of conservative treatment before we can even go to the insurance carrier to get permission to treat their veins. So if you think you have a venous problem, now is the time to come in and get a free screening so we can determine whether or not you need something evaluated. If you have a vein problem or you think you may have a vein problem, now's the time to contact us at bestveincarehuntsville.com.
You want the right specialist for your recovery. At SportsMed Orthopedic Surgery and Spine Center, we understand every body is different. Your muscles and bones are unique, as is your body. Our SportsMed specialists offer innovative treatments and minimally invasive procedures, allowing you to quickly return to the life you love. Locations in Huntsville, Madison, Athens, and Decatur, and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com. Improving performance, improving lives.
The safety oath. Repeat after me. I will safely bring safety to my facility and keep it safe. I will safely keep my people safe. I will put safety first in everything I do, and I will safely do so with Grainger. When you think safety, think Grainger. Grainger's got over 100,000 safety products to help keep our facility safe and our people safer. When it comes to safety, Grainger's got your back. Call clickgrainger.com/safety or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome back to the Blitz Sports Radio. And this is the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared. We appreciate everybody for taking the time to listen and to, of course, support us. And we look forward to these segments during this time of year. This gentleman is very busy. He does a great job. I watched his latest episode last night, which is, what a task to kind of give you some bracketology baseball-wise and lay out the field. It's a very difficult thing to do, but as his great partner Blake Lovell told us on Talking Ball this morning as we talked a little baseball and hoops with him, he's the numbers guy, and he takes a long look at it, makes a lot of strong arguments. And we all know the SEC is the best baseball league in the country. Do I think they have 11 teams worthy of playing in the field? Absolutely, I do. I think the SEC is far and away the best league, but I think sometimes the committee, who has a hard job, they sometimes go out of their way, though, maybe to hold it 8, 9. We'll see. I still think it's probably 9, but maybe they can get double digits in from the SEC this year. A lot of it's going to depend on how teams finish in the next 2 weeks. So we're going to talk about that with Southeastern14.com's and the publisher, longtime publisher of VandySports.com, part of the Rivals Network, Chris Lee. He's going to join us live on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Chris, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, good morning. It's a fun time of year with all the games to come, with the tournament in Hoover in 2 weeks, and of course the NCAA one to follow. There's a lot to follow and keep up with, not just in the SEC but in other leagues. But this is what we live for if we're baseball fans.
Well, it is, and I was an honor to join you last week. Of course, that was a negative connotation considering the craziness after your segment last week. Within an hour, the Brad Bohannon situation happened, which, Chris, I know you follow college baseball as closely as anyone. I certainly try to follow it in the SEC. That's the most bizarre and crazy thing I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, look, you rarely see baseball coaches fired in Power 5 conferences in the middle of the season. I mean, we have seen them in the SEC and even the SEC West before. It does happen on occasion, but I've never seen a coach firing at any level, college, pro, whatever, under the circumstances in which that one happened. And we kind of wondered how Alabama would respond. Seems like we got a pretty good answer, and I think Bama won a midweek game since then, too. And, you know, I have said all along, I thought Alabama was a better team than people perceived, and maybe what holding Alabama back has been resolved. What was holding Alabama back has been resolved, but who knows?
Well, and you know that Vandy program as well as any. They pitched really well after the opener on Friday. But I thought it was Alabama's biggest series win in many a year. I mean, it was the first time they've beaten Vanderbilt in 11 years, the testament to Tim Corbin's program. But I thought Alabama looked like a dangerous team this past weekend.
Yeah, and if you want to push back on that a little bit, Carter Holton was pitching hurt. I don't know if we'll see him anytime soon or what. And then once that game got out of hand, it just kind of went sideways. And so that was maybe a little bit of aberration. If you want to match those two teams up and play it differently and maybe not start him, perhaps that goes differently. But even then, Drew, let's say you throw the Friday night game out. Alabama splits the final two with Vandy. Both teams pitch extremely well. And so my point is, however you take it, Alabama had a great weekend. It looked like it went toe for toe the whole weekend and got the better of a team that I think everybody's got inside probably the top five right now. And I think that, look, it was at home, and it is hard to beat other teams in this league or anywhere on their fields, and particularly this year. But however you want to slice it, Alabama looked to me the part, and I'll be interested to see if it can keep up that level of play down the stretch, because just to repeat, I've been higher on this team than most. I felt it's underachieved. Pitching health has been an issue, and with Alabama starting to get some big arms back in a league and really in a country where a lot of teams do not have good, much less serviceable starting pitching, I think it's got some things along with the veteran lineup that a lot of other teams in the country do not have.
And I was thinking about what you said as the weekend unfolded last week. You kept saying that with looking at the metrics and the numbers that you felt like Alabama was better than they were being given credit for. You certainly looked like that's the case. But as you said, they got to go to Blue Bell Park and take on Texas A&M, who's coming off of a series win over Florida. And pardon me, Coach Schlossnagel's team looks to be turning it on late. That's going to be a very interesting series because, as you said, much more difficult to win on the road. As we've seen, I don't think Tennessee has won a road series.
No, I think Tennessee has won 2 games on the road. And I'm going to look up A&M's record at home just for reference while we're doing this here. But, I mean, it's one of two things, right? It's the narrative about winning on the road, which is always tough. And A&M this year at home is 21-11, so that's pretty pedestrian, to be honest, for what some of these teams in this league have done. You've got a lot of teams that have only lost maybe 3 or 4 games at home. So A&M not as unbeatable in College Station as maybe some other teams are in some other venues. That's number one. And number two, I don't think it's close in terms of pitching. A&M has had issues pitching all year. It's gotten a little better lately, but I compare those staffs top to bottom. I don't think there's much comparison between Alabama and A&M. And I always, when in doubt, I usually lean on the pitching. So if Alabama goes to College Station and wins a series, I will not be surprised.
Well, and you made a point on your bracketology yesterday. If you crunch the numbers and look at the opportunity in the next 2 weekends for Alabama, it's not completely out of the question that they're even in the hosting conversation, correct?
They're 15 in the RPI this morning, Drew.
Yeah.
Ole Miss have to play for the last weekend? I don't know. That is, I think, a sweep is certainly on the table for Alabama there. Alabama's got much better pitching. Again, we just went over that. Let's say that Alabama goes 16-14. I would think the RPI would be close to where it is. That would be winning 5 of 6. A lot of times that can get you a host. Now, it may take some work in Hoover, but I would think the RPI would be in range. Now, the problem is, holy cow, look at the rest of the league. You've got 6 of the top 10 RPI teams in the SEC as of this morning. You've got, that doesn't include Alabama, which I guess would be 7. You've got Tennessee sitting there at 24. If the Vols hit a heater to finish up and say win 5 of 6 against South Carolina and Kentucky, I think would be top 16. Now, I have questions about Tennessee's ability to win on the road. First of all, I think they've got a tough matchup in their park with Kentucky.
Yes.
I think Kentucky could do some things that give them problems, but Tennessee's not lost a whole lot of games in Knoxville, so there's that. But then you go to South Carolina, do the Vols the next weekend. And I know Carolina's been reeling, but Carolina's also due to get healthy. And that might come just in time for Tennessee to roll into town. I'm rambling here, but my point is you've got a whole lot of variables. So, even if Alabama does run the table, you've got, 6 other teams that I think that would be hosting right now, according to most people. If all those hold serve, Alabama could be 6 potentially. Tennessee could potentially be, Alabama would be 7. Tennessee would potentially be 8. It's not going to play out that way. But my point is, you've already got a log jam. And Auburn. D1 Baseball mentioned Auburn, which has got a really favorable schedule.
They do.
Potentially getting that host. I mean, there's just so many parts right now. Even with 2 weekends to play, it's hard to sort it out. But, I mean, the metrics suggest, and plus the way Alabama's playing, and I don't know, that's the other thing. It's like, if I would love to be in the room for the Alabama discussion for the committee, if Alabama's a borderline hosting team, because, man, I mean, you can't ignore the implications from what happened last week. And was the guy in charge of the program looking out for his team's best interest? And, how you answer that question and whether it matters, maybe that means something too. I mean, there's just a lot of things in play, but the metrics, if Alabama can get above 500, a lot of times you host in that spot. I just don't know what the committee does with that if that plays out like that.
It's a really fascinating conversation because, but I will say in your projections, and by the way, I know for our listeners, first of all, kudos to you for doing it. As you crunch the numbers, how long does that take to put that field together? Because that's really, I know, and you're a committee of one. So there's a lot of decision making that has to go. How long does that take? Because that's a lot of work, and I commend you. I watched it last night. I was fascinated by it. First of all, good job out of you. But how long does that take to break that down?
Well, it takes a while. I've got a sheet that you didn't see in that video. And by the way, being a committee of one comes with some dangers. I noticed I put 2 Sun Belt teams in Baton Rouge, which I corrected this morning, not in the video, but it's in the comments.
I got you.
So I would now put Southern Miss.
Hey, we forgive you there. I mean, come on, that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the publisher, the editor, the author, and all those things, and the proofreader at once. But I did notice, and if I make a mistake, I'll own it. So I did have a little thing there. I put that in the notes of the episode. But the truth is, I started this weeks ago. I've got this chart that's just absurd. absurd, and it's got not just the RPI numbers, but who are the key teams that you beat? Because sometimes I like, you can say, well, they went, 8-6 against the RPI top 50. Well, a lot of times RPI top 50 is going to have some teams that are barely in the top 50 and aren't going to make the tournament. Sometimes that's got teams in there that are top 5 RPI where you win series. And to me, that's a big difference. It's taken me dozens of hours to get to this point. Now, every week it becomes a little bit easier, and you get to the point to where it's kind of like, okay, you're pretty sure these teams are going to host, although with the SEC this year, as we outlined, that's a little more difficult. But it really gets to the point of, once you get to this point, you kind of have a pretty decent idea who the hosting candidates are, and the ones that don't make it are going to be 2s. You can fill out the 2s pretty easily. Then you get to the 3s, and you fill out, 7 or 8 of those pretty easily. And it comes down to looking really at the power conferences, and the Big 12 is problematic this year with TCU and Texas Tech. You got the Pac-12 with teams like Washington that aren't great RPI teams, but they're a couple of games above 500 in the Pac-12. And it's really sorting through that mess of teams, and that's really going to be between those leagues and the ACC, where you've got North Carolina State and Louisville, although Louisville's probably not a bubble team anymore. That's where I spend the bulk of my time at this point, is really sorting through those power conference teams and maybe the Sun Belt, the 13 and 11 Troys and teams like that RPI's got them there, but when you dig in, maybe you got some issues. It's a little easier at this point because, again, you've got a lot more givens than you had a couple of weeks ago, but it is finding those teams in those 4 or 5 conferences and try to compare those head-to-head and then even look ahead a little bit and say, can these teams win some games or win some not, or not win some games, and maybe make some judgments that way. That's another long-winded answer, but it's a little complicated.
Well, and I was mentioning it looks like a 3-way dance between Missouri, Ole Miss, and State, and one of them is going to miss the tournament. I made a prediction that one of the Mississippi schools will make it. One will probably miss. Even though Missouri does have a tough schedule, they go to Auburn, so it's possible that they could both slide in. But we know that what Lamonis and Bianco have done the last 2 years. Is either one of them in trouble?
I don't think Ole Miss is going to fire Bianco.
I don't see how you
could. Winning a national title. I don't think you can do that. I mean, maybe you can. It's the SEC. You see some crazy stuff happen, or maybe he takes another job somewhere else. I don't know. But I would think you'd still have a honeymoon for another year. For Lamonis, man, I don't know. I mean, they got rid of a pitching coach a week ago. I think it would be a little bit absurd to fire a guy 2 years removed from a national title, but man, they've been 2 awful years. And I cannot figure out why they cannot find better pitching. I mean, they fired the pitching coach. That didn't fix the problem. I mean, that's been one that there's been talk all year about him being gone. How much reality to that is there, I don't know. To your other point a minute ago on getting to Hoover, the problem for Ole Miss, behind Missouri already, Missouri took the series.
That's true.
So Ole Miss is going to really have to finish a game better than Missouri to get there, and State and Missouri didn't play. So I think the tiebreaker would go to the top and work down. I know Missouri swept Tennessee, so it depends on where the Vols finish. Missouri took a game from Vandy, whereas Mississippi State got swept. I think when you come down to the tiebreaker, State is already a game behind Missouri, and Missouri would win the tiebreaker there too. So you're looking at 2 teams that, in order to climb Missouri, are probably both going to have to finish a game ahead of them. And the way they've not been winning games lately, that could be tough.
Yeah, my final thought was that it would be Mizzou and Mississippi State, and Ole Miss would likely miss. So we'll see, and that would be tough for the Rebel fans. But I still love Bianco and what he's done. I mean, he's been there. I just remember how bad they were before he got there, and so people forget that. And you know what? I was having this debate with a friend last night about Alabama, and I talked to a former player about this too. Sometimes when when a coach retires, if he's not feeling like he's getting the support and you think it's a good thing, it's not. Because to be honest with you, Jim Wells should have got the new stadium. He should have got the full support. He should have coached there 25, 30 years and had the field named after him, Sewell Thomas Stadium at Jim Wells Field. He nearly won a national title, might have won one if they'd kept supporting him. I just think these SEC baseball jobs are destination jobs, most of them. If you get them, and see, college baseball is a unique sport because unlike the NBA, unlike the NFL, where coaches get a hankering, and an owner will say, look at this guy, I'll go hire Urban Meyer, which was a disaster, but still, or Jim Harbaugh, or somebody, they'll go like, like John Calipari, it failed, but he'll go to the NBA. They don't do that in college. So if you get one of these SEC jobs, especially, which is the best league in the country, if you hire the right coach, he could be there a long time.
Yeah, and I've always thought that Vanderbilt took off and started winning national titles. I went back and looked this up last year. Even before Ole Miss won the whole thing, I always thought that Vanderbilt and Ole Miss were really comparable programs. I compared Bianco and Corbin, I don't know, I can't remember the period of time, but it was a good 12 or 15 years, and it might have been up until the point that Vandy won it all in 2014. But they both amassed a pretty good body of work, and Vanderbilt was a little bit ahead, but it was, I think it turned out to be a difference of like one win a season. Now, look, Vanderbilt won a couple of national titles, was runner-up a couple more times, and that very much changed the perception of the programs. But the point I was trying to make was Vanderbilt was a really good program before it won the national titles, and then perception, and rightfully so, changed. But the point being that Ole Miss was right up there, I thought, with Vanderbilt, which was still a pretty highly nationally recognized program even before then. But I think there'd always been kind of an air of disappointment, and certainly when your in-state rival wins a national title and gets to Omaha a couple more times than you do, there's a little bit more pressure. But I always thought that Mike Bianco had done a really solid job. I felt like those numbers kind of backed it up, and it ended up being kind of a moot point in a way because Ole Miss ended up getting a national title, and that sort of, did a lot of damage to the Bianco can't win big narrative. But, I think to your point, he's done a fine job, and who knows how that goes if either of those guys get replaced.
Well, you talked about the injury, but how big a series is this for Vanderbilt or Florida? I know they're both wanting to be national seeds. This is in Gainesville. What is your thoughts on it going forward? Vanderbilt trying to bounce back after a tough series against Alabama that was hard fought.
Yeah, I think for Vandy, just go down there and win one, come home and take care of business and take the series from Arkansas, which doesn't play as well on the road and has been banged up, and they'll be fine. I think for Florida, it's a little bit bigger. Florida is going to have a hard time getting a national seed without beating Vandy this weekend. Vanderbilt's a couple games ahead in the standings already, and so, Florida doesn't win the series, and certainly, it might even be a sweep to take the East, but I think there's more for Florida to play for. Florida's just a confusing team. I heard Aaron Fitt talking about them this week and called them maybe the most talented team in the country, and a lot of people thought the Gators had the most talented rotation in the country coming in. But they walk the world.
Yes.
You can't trust any of them for any long strings of time. It seems like if Sproat has a good start, he goes out and gets bombed the next weekend. Caglione really has not been good at all in league play. Is their number 3, and Waldrop in between has got great stuff. He's a first-round talent, but just can't throw strikes, and so that's an issue in this league this year. So Florida's only +9 in the league in runs scored, which is not a lot for a team that's 15-9. So I think there's been a little bit of smoke and mirrors to what Florida's done in the league so far. But having said that, Kevin O'Sullivan, I think, is one of 2 coaches that Tim Corbin's got a losing record against. That's a team that always kind of knows how to get under their skin, and it's kind of done so repeatedly over the years, and has kind of had the upper hand in that series. And it is in Gainesville, and that's a team that hits a lot of home runs, which has been a problem for Vanderbilt's pitching staff at times. So I think Florida wins the series, but there's some things in the matchup, even without Holton, that suggest Vandy could maybe go down there and not just compete, but win the series. But, yeah, I think Florida really needs to get the series win here if it's going to host 2 weekends, and we'll see if that happens.
Well, great stuff. I really enjoyed the bracketology, and we enjoy our weekly visits. It's hard to believe there's only 2 weekends left. About to get it cranked up tonight with Ole Miss hosting Auburn, and then everything will get really going on Friday. But we're going to be monitoring all of that. And Alabama, of course, we'll hear that on 97.7 The Zone, our sister station at Bluebell Park against Texas A&M. Chris, really good stuff. Let everybody know how to follow you guys at Southeastern 14 and, of course, Vandy Sports.
Yeah, all of our stuff at Southeastern 14, almost all of our work is on our YouTube channel, which you can search Southeastern 14. We just went over 8,000 subscribers this week. We've really only been around, in full operation about a year, so people are finding us and liking us. The Vandy coverage is at vandysports.com. We'll recap all 3 games of the series in Florida, so whether your interest is Vanderbilt or the SEC, we'll have you covered this weekend.
Well, and I like the shirt, too. Glavin, Smoltz, and Maddox. That was a nice
Oh,
shirt.
yeah. That was those were some fun times.
Yes, they were. Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate the visit again.
Thank you.
That's Chris Lee. We're going to go on a break and wrap up this Thursday edition of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio.
The Blitz has been called. AVIQ. Who is AVIQ? AVIQ is audiovisual the intelligent way, where we put our IQ to work for your AV needs. With more than 100 years combined experience in audio, video, and automation, our team of experts is dedicated to one thing, helping you discover technological solutions that make your home special. Once you experience a game or a movie on one of our state-of-the-art home theater systems, you may never leave the house again. AVIQ can build the entire system for you or provide the quality components if you're a do-it-yourselfer. But AVIQ is more than just home theater and state-of-the-art sound systems. We offer a variety of control options for home technology. Energy efficiency, heightened security, and improved quality of life are all attainable through the automation of home systems. Intuitive and user-friendly control is our main priority in designing a system that meets your needs. Don't just take our word for it. You need to see it to believe it. Come visit us at our state-of-the-art showroom on University, just east of Jim and Nick's, across from AT&T, or visit aviqhsv.com.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
A wise man once said, if you take care of old folks and children, everything in the middle will take care of itself.
Hi, I'm Danny Aldridge, lawyer in Alabama and Tennessee. In the next 20 years, the number of those folks over 65 years of age will more than double. In our golden years, the most important goal is to be treated with dignity and have control over doing what makes you grateful with those you love. At the Aldridge Law Firm and the Legal Town Center, we're dedicated to help you with these goals, and we'll be there when life throws you those inevitable curveballs. Let us assist you with your legal needs, whatever they may be or become. You may reach us by phone at 256-534-3188 or online with Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Just remember, we're here to help. Whether it's personal injury, wrongful death, fraud and cheat, or estate planning made complete, we're here to help.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
A wise man once said, if you take care of old folks and children, everything in the middle will take care of itself.
Hi, I'm Danny Aldridge, lawyer in Alabama and Tennessee. In the next 20 years, the number of those folks over 65 years of age will more than double. In our golden years, the most important goal is to be treated with dignity and have control over doing what makes you grateful with those you love. At the Aldridge Law Firm and the Legal Town Center, we're dedicated to help you with these goals, and we'll be there when life throws you those inevitable curveballs. Let us assist you with your legal needs, whatever they may be or become. You may reach us by phone at 256-534-3188 or online with Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Just remember, we're here to help. Whether it's personal injury, wrongful death, fraud and cheat, or estate planning made complete, we're here to help.
Look out in the street there. You know what you don't see? My car, because I had to sell it to pay the lawyer I hired when I got busted for drunk driving. You know what else you don't see? My girlfriend, who decided that a guy with no car and no license and no money was no fun. And hey, you know what else you don't see? You don't see me leaving for work in the morning, because I missed so much time with court and everything that I got fired.
Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Welcome back to the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. This Thursday edition, we've been talking college baseball. We've been talking Alabama going on the road to Bluebell Park to take on Texas A&M, the Auburn Tigers, starting tonight on the road at Swayze Field in Oxford, Mississippi. Big opportunity for Auburn to stay hot, maybe even stay in the conversation for a host spot if they can win their last 2 series, which they definitely could if they could win 6 straight or 5 out of 6. To close it out, we'll see. Butch Thompson's group 11 and 13 in the SEC as well. They're red hot after we said the last 2 weekends after the slow start in conference play. But great job by Butch Thompson's group. As we said, Alabama baseball going to be on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Don't forget later today on 97.7 The Zone, tentatively at 7 p.m. Alabama softball in the quarterfinals of the softball tournament. They take on the host Arkansas Razorbacks in Fayetteville. So be aware of that. Gray Robertson and Tom Canterbury on the call. And don't forget the afternoon blitz, the Bandyman and Captain Cool John Abraham from 2 to 4. And don't forget to download our app, Google Store, Apple Store, the Blitz Sports Radio app. Everybody have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m. And don't forget tonight, JP2 Baseball as they host Etowah in Game 2. They didn't play a doubleheader last night because of rain. But Etowah takes the first game 9-3. Must-win situation for the Falcons. Hope they can bounce back tonight.
This hour of the Blitz is brought to you by Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Online at
June 11th in Birmingham. Athletes of all ages